you want to innovate, the most important thing is not to have good ideas, it's to move quickly. In the US, if I have an idea, I'm going to talk about it to everybody, because by talking about it to everybody, I get feedback, and I make the idea better. And actually, I'm not worried about anyone stealing my idea, because the truth is, what matters is the execution, and not the idea.
Bonjour Rob Spiro.
Hello.
Et merci de nous accueillir ici à Nantes, à la cantine numérique. C'est ici que vous avez lancé Imagination Machine en 2017. Un studio qui crée les entreprises à impact positif. Vous m'arrêtez si je me trompe. On va revenir sur votre parcours, mais d'abord dans Drift. Vous savez que ce sont des cadres, des managers, des décideurs du secteur automobile qui nous regardent, qui vous regardent. Je voulais que vous nous expliquiez d'abord votre rapport à l'automobile. Et si je vous donnais un objet, que vous m'expliquiez ce que ça vous évoque, cette clé de voiture, si vous la prenez. Expliquez-moi, la voiture pour vous, Rob Spiro.
It's funny that you give me a key to a Volkswagen. I'll tell you a little story that I had cars growing up when I was a young adult that were never nice cars because I didn't have the means to buy a nice car, and I sold a company when I was 24 years old. I sold a company to Google for $50 million. And what I did maybe the next week is I walked into a BMW dealer in San Francisco and I bought a brand new BMW, and I walked out with a BMW. I was very happy. And I used this car for a few years, and I was happy to use it, but I started to realize actually that the car didn't make me happy, even though it's a really nice car that everybody is supposed to want. And I ended up selling the car, and instead I bought for $4,000 a Volkswagen Westfalia van from 1985 that I could use for also camping with my girlfriend. And this made me so happy. So much happier than my fancy BMW. And actually this camper van and a bicycle made me really, really happy. And so that's my little story about cars. And actually, it's funny because I used to go to these meetings to pitch startups to investors. And at investors' offices, the parking lot is full of Mercedes and Ferrari and Jaguar and Maseratis. And I used to come with my 1985 Volkswagen Westfalia and park.
Le bonheur en combi-van, donc Volkswagen. C'est ça votre rapport à la voiture. Et aujourd'hui, l'envie que vous pouvez percevoir chez les utilisateurs, chez vous, c'est quoi?
The desire of people in general. It's hard to say because people are different and there's lots of desires out there. When I think about me personally, my dream remains to have a really cool camper van that I can use on the weekends and then a bicycle to use on the weeks. When I think about the mass market and what people really want, there's something that happens in technology, which is that the things that used to be only accessible to the very, very wealthy, to the aristocrats of 100 years ago, are really what technology can provide to everybody today. And that's the dream. And with cars, very wealthy people in most societies, for most of the history of cars, did not drive themselves. They were driven around by a professional chauffeur. And I think that that's probably still the dream of people, of the mass market, is actually that I get driven around by somebody. Or by the car itself.
Alors on va revenir sur le pays de la voiture. D'abord votre parcours aux États-Unis, vous l'avez dit. Vous avez créé un moteur de recherche, Aardvark, racheté $50 millions par Google. Pour qui vous avez travaillé ensuite? Racontez-nous ça.
Yeah, Google is a great company. A huge company. When I joined Google, I think they must have been maybe 20,000 employees, and today there are hundreds of thousands of employees. But very a flat organization where anybody can go and talk to the CEO. And the best ideas win. It doesn't matter where the ideas come from. And so very quickly I was able to get into big conversations about strategy with anybody in the organization.
Avec 18 mois passés chez Google avant de créer une autre entreprise,
Yeah,
au plus près, le digital au plus près des exploitations agricoles pour les aider.
I left.
Good Eggs.
Exactly. I left Google because I love starting new companies, to be thinking about new ideas, to test these ideas really quickly, to learn from customers, and to create something that doesn't exist before, that comes from the imagination. And we had this idea with a co-founder that we could create a new kind of grocery store, supermarket, that only carried food from local farmers, from local artisans, who were making food in a way that was more respectful to the earth, that was healthier for customers, that tasted better. And what if we could use technology to make the supermarket and make it even more convenient and even more attractive than the big supermarkets that existed in the industrial world?
Et vous vous retrouvez avec rapidement 300 employés dans cette entreprise. Et là, vous dites, je vais faire autre chose parce que je m'éloigne de mon métier. Vous, votre moteur, c'est d'être près du client. Là, vous en étiez éloigné. C'est ça?
That's right. Yeah, it wasn't right away, but 5 years after starting the company, it started to really work, and we were hiring very quickly to keep up with the demand. And I found myself after 5 years as the CEO of a company with 300 employees. And the job of a CEO of a company with 300 employees that's growing very quickly is to, your customer is actually the employees. I think that was my vision, to keep them aligned on the vision of the product that we can deliver and why we're doing this, to make sure that the company is running smoothly and that the right processes are in place to keep everybody productive and happy and delivering value to the customers. And that's a really interesting job that I thought I wasn't very good at, actually, because I was just learning. And it was a very different job than the job of creating something new, of being creative and finding new ideas, even though you do that in a big company as well, but that's not really the job or the primary job of the CEO.
Trouver des nouvelles idées en accord avec les nouvelles pratiques des consommateurs, des acheteurs. Ça peut s'adapter, ça doit s'adapter à l'automobile?
Absolutely. Every industry is being reinvented permanently, constantly. And the way that we reinvent industries is by paying very close attention to what people want and what's possible, and testing millions of things. Yeah.
Voilà pour les États-Unis. Ensuite, si l'on suit votre parcours, pour des raisons personnelles, vous rencontrez votre compagne, vous vous installez en France, vous découvrez la France et vous lancez donc Imagination Machine. Quelle vision vous avez, vous, sur l'envie d'entreprendre, la créativité française quand vous comparez à ce que vous connaissiez de la Silicon Valley?
Yeah. There's this huge desire in France to innovate, actually. And we have a stereotype in America of France as a place that doesn't want to innovate, that's very traditional and very bureaucratic. And actually, the reality in France today is that it's easy to start a new company, that some industries remain very highly regulated, but many other industries, it's easier to innovate. And everybody I speak to wants to innovate, and startups are actually highly valued in society, both by startuppers, entrepreneurs, but also the big companies. Every big company I talk to is investing heavily in innovation.
L'innovation, mais aussi des grands groupes où des entreprises raisonnent de manière classique avec la gestion de contrôler ses charges, maximiser les produits pour avoir ensuite de la valeur ajoutée, être rentable. Et ça peut surprendre parfois de voir des entreprises, des startups qui sont rachetées parfois des dizaines de millions d'euros alors qu'elles ne perdent de l'argent. Est-ce que vous comprenez que ça puisse surprendre des vieux groupes, entre guillemets?
Yeah, well, there's a funny difference in the mathematics of high growth companies, because when you have a company that's a big company and you can grow 20 or 30% per year, it's incredibly fast. And when you're a small company, if you're growing 300% per year or 10 times per year, that's really fast. And so even if you're losing money, the economics change so dramatically every month and every year because the scale changes by orders of magnitude, by factors of 10. And so you have to do the math about profitability and margins, not today, but given the growth rate. And so if a company loses money today, but actually the variable cost of what they're delivering is low, it means that with 10 times more scale, they'll be highly profitable, or 100 times more scale. And actually thinking about 10 or 100 times more scale is not that silly, not that weird when the growth rate in the past 12 months or the past 3 years is actually 5 or 10x per year.
C'est l'éleveur de start-up qui parle.
Yeah, it's an American mindset because in America, the market is so enormous that even if you're doing 10 million or 100 million in revenue per year, thinking about growing 10 times is not ridiculous because the market can support it. In France, maybe it's a little different because the market is not as big, even though it is a very big market in France. And so if we're already doing 50 million euros in revenue, thinking about growing times 10 seems crazy. But the market is increasingly global and especially European. And so we don't need to grow just in France. We can grow throughout Europe and throughout the world.
Vous avez loué, on l'a compris, l'esprit d'innovation en France et dans la vieille Europe. Il y a aussi, d'une part de chez certains, une sorte de fascination pour la culture américaine du business, cet ADN du no limit. On pense par exemple à Elon Musk, personnalité qui ne laisse personne indifférent. Il peut y avoir un Elon Musk français un jour? C'est possible ou c'est de la science-fiction?
Of course, because ideas are global, and startups or companies that are created in France can address the global market from the first day. What France has is a lot of talent and a lot of desire to innovate, and a lot of technical expertise. There is kind of a limit in the French mindset about the potential market size that's different in the US. But I think that people can realize that actually the market is increasingly European and global. There's another part to it, which is a mindset in the US that's harder in France, which is it's okay to test things and fail. And actually, if you want to innovate, the most important thing is not to have good ideas, it's to move quickly. And this is different in the US and in France. In the US, if you have an idea, you test it really quickly. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. There's no stigma, there's no taboo. You're going to learn from this failure and you're going to be able to try something else. And if you're moving really quickly, then you can test 10 or 100 ideas and you're going to find one that really works. And in France, it's harder because there's a little more taboo to fail. So therefore, we move a little slowly. We judge things by the quality of the idea and not necessarily by the speed of execution. And Elon Musk is an interesting example because Elon Musk is not afraid to fail. The guy launches these massive companies. And if it doesn't work, it's okay, because actually he's launched many of these massive companies. And if he launches a new car that fails, that's okay, because he's launching lots of new cars. With SpaceX, one of his companies, he launched many rocket ships that exploded and failed. It's kind of the most visual image you could have of not being afraid to fail. But he learned each time, and now his rockets don't explode, and it's a company worth tens of billions of dollars.
Il y a ça qui vous surprend aussi dans la différence entre la culture de la Silicon Valley et la vieille Europe. Le manque de coopération ou de travail en open source?
There's a lot of cooperation, but there is still a culture in France, I find, of people wanting to protect their ideas. And if I have an idea, I don't want to talk about it to anybody because I want to keep it for myself. I'm afraid that people are going to steal my idea. This is culturally, I find this in France, not everywhere, but there is this trend. And it's not true in the US. In the US, if I have an idea, I'm going to talk about it to everybody, because by talking about it to everybody, I get feedback and I make the idea better. And actually, I'm not worried about anyone stealing my idea, because the truth is, what matters is the execution and not the idea. And even if I have an idea that gets protected by a patent or something, people are going to find ways to copy it. And what will make the difference in creating value is my ability to execute on this idea. And the ability to execute on this idea is based on my ability to get feedback and to iterate and to improve it over time.
Donc on peut avoir en France des idées à la Elon Musk sans avoir peur qu'elles soient volées parce que ça paraît impossible.
That's right. We can have ideas. We shouldn't be afraid that our ideas are going to be stolen because they will definitely be stolen. And what is going to make the difference is not whether your idea is stolen. It will be stolen one way or another. What makes the difference is how well and how quickly you can improve this idea and bring it to life.
Pour revenir à l'automobile telle qu'on la connaît, elle va mourir. Le modèle tel qu'il peut exister, en tout cas, de voitures actuellement. En quoi vos startups, par exemple, ou les entreprises à impact que vous créez, que vous accompagnez, peuvent avoir un rôle à jouer dans ce secteur?
Yeah, well, I think that the world of cars will evolve and change rapidly. I don't think it will die. There are trends that everybody knows about that are coming, about electrification, about self-driving cars, about different kinds of ownership models, more like rentals rather than ownership. These things are coming, but what will really disrupt the car industry are ideas that haven't yet arrived, I think. Or they're ideas that are manifestations of electrification and self-driving cars and ownership models that are very specific manifestations that have not yet been invented. And I think that the way to find those ideas that will explode and gain traction very quickly is to test lots of things very quickly.
Des entreprises à impact positif dans l'automobile? C'est compatible?
Absolutely, because when we think about positive impact, one of the things we're talking about is environmental impact and another is social impact. When it comes to environmental impact and not having a climate catastrophe, one of the most important things we can do is electrify our vehicles. And this is clearly a positive impact project that is based in the world of automobile. I think that actually new ownership models, where we are able to rent instead of buy, could also have positive social impact because they could open up car use and car ownership to more people who don't have it today. Reducing friction in the world of automobiles, buying and selling especially, but also maintenance and other things, could also create economic opportunity and put money in people's pockets.
L'impact aussi de la digitalisation, vous connaissez Stampit?
Stampit, I know. The world of automobiles is digitalizing like every other sector. I think when I met the guys from Stampit, there was an idea there. We talked about digitalization. We know this trend is coming, but the specific ideas that will make it real have not necessarily been found. And the guys from Stampit had this idea that, okay, everybody talks about digitalization, but what does it mean? We have an idea that starts with a photo that you take with your smartphone. And actually, if you take a photo with your smartphone, you can generate all of the workflows of auto dealers starting with this image. And actually, we're not talking about digitalization as a theory or in the abstract. We're talking about a very specific idea, which is to start with a photo that you take with your smartphone. And based on that photo, we can do all of the great digital marketing that we need to do. We can do all of the evaluation of these cars and pricing of these cars. And actually, you could imagine that the entire software layer of the car industry, of the dealer management system and everything is going to be rebuilt starting with an image on a smartphone. And that's a big vision that I think is pretty genius.
Au plus près des demandes des clients, on en revient à votre moteur dans votre vie d'entrepreneur?
That's right. The way to think about these ideas and to know whether they're going to work is to test them, is to build little tests, little prototypes, and to talk to the real customers. And you're going to learn from these conversations, and it's going to lead you to a better idea and a better idea and a better idea. And that's what's fun, and that will move so fast. And I'll give you one other example because in the car industry, we're also talking about not just software, but big machines that are very difficult to develop. And so you might think, how could we test an idea quickly if the idea requires a huge industrial infrastructure? But actually, you can test these ideas because you can fake them. You can show people, for example, you can create an idea for a car or a self-driving technology and make a fake video of it or an image or a sketch and put up a fake website. And really what you want to know is how does it feel for customers? And so there are ways to test things very quickly and get feedback and improve the ideas before we spend the first euro on any kind of industrial technology.
Donc le digital au service de la demande du client et du consommateur pour l'usage de demain et les pratiques automobiles d'achat de demain, ça va être quoi? On achètera grâce au digital ou on louera des Google Cars autonomes? Comment vous voyez ça?
I think that I don't have the answers, of course. The themes are widely known of autonomous vehicles, of electric vehicles, of digitalization of the buying and maintenance process. And what's going to be interesting to see is how can we find the specific ideas inside those themes that grow quickly, that please customers and dealers and manufacturers. How can we get these ideas into the market to learn from them and find the specific idea that nobody can really predict that will bring these themes to life?
Merci beaucoup, Rob Spiro. Vous me rendez les clés de mon combi-van?
I'll keep it, yeah. No, here you go.
Merci, Rob Spiro.
Thank you very much.